Flamingo Books. Shining English Reader. Series 7. Chapter 12. Silverspot. The Story of a Crow. How many of us have ever got to know a wild animal? I do not mean merely to meet with one once or twice, or to have one in a cage, but to really know it for a long time while it is wild, and to get an insight into its life and history. The trouble usually is to know one creature from his fellow. One fox or crow is so much like another that we cannot be sure that it really is the same next time we meet. But once in a while there arises an animal who is stronger or wiser than his fellow, who becomes a great leader, who is, as we would say, a genius, and if he is bigger, or has some mark by which men can know him, he soon becomes famous in his country, and shows us that the life of a wild animal may be far more interesting and exciting than that of many human beings. Such was Silverspot, whose history, so far as I could learn it, I shall now briefly tell. Silverspot was simply a wise old crow. His name was given because of the silvery white spot that was like a nickel stuck on his right side, between the eye and the bill, and it was owing to this spot that I was able to know him from the other crows, and put together the parts of his history that came to my knowledge. Crows are, as you must know, our most intelligent birds. Wise as an old crow did not become a saying without good reason. Crows know the value of organization, and are as well drilled as soldiers, very much better than some soldiers, in fact, for crows are always on duty, always at war, and always dependent on each other for life and safety. Their leaders not only are the oldest and wisest of the band, but also the strongest and bravest, for they must be ready at any time with sheer force to put down an upstart or a rebel. The rank and file are the youngsters and the crows without special gifts. Old Silverspot was the leader of a large band of crows that made their headquarters near Toronto, Canada, in Castle Frank, which is a pine-clad hill on the northeast edge of the city. Each year he came with his troop, and for about 6 weeks took up his abode on the hill. Each morning thereafter the crows set out in 3 bands to forage. One band went southwest to Ashbridges Bay. One went north up the Don, and one, the largest, went northwestward up the ravine. The last, Silverspot led in person. Who led the others I never found out. On calm mornings they flew high and straight away. But when it was windy the band flew low, and followed the ravine for shelter. One windy day I stood on the high bridge across the ravine, as the old crow, heading his long, straggling troop, came flying down homeward. Half a mile away I could hear the contented, "All's well, come right along," as we should say, or as he put it, and as also his lieutenant echoed it at the rear of the bend. They were flying very low to be out of the wind, and would have to rise a little to clear the bridge on which I was. Silverspot saw me standing there, and as I was closely watching him, he didn't like it. He checked his flight and called out, "Be on your guard," and rose much higher in the air. Then seeing that I was not armed, he flew over my head about 20 feet, and his followers in turn did the same, dipping again to the old level when past the bridge. Next day I was at the same place, and as the crows came near, I raised my walking stick and pointed it at them. The old fellow at once cried out, "Danger," and rose 50 feet higher than before. Seeing that it was not a gun, he ventured to fly over. But on the 3rd day I took with me a gun, and at once he cried out, "Great danger, a gun." His lieutenant repeated the cry, and every crow in the troop began to tower and scatter from the rest, till they were far above gunshot, and so passed safely over, coming down again to the shelter of the valley when well beyond reach. Another time, as the long straggling troop came down the valley, a red-tailed hawk alighted on a tree close by their intended route. The leader cried out, "Hawk, hawk," and stayed his flight, as did each crow on nearing him, until all were massed in a solid body. Then, no longer fearing the hawk, they passed on. But a quarter of a mile farther on, a man with a gun appeared below, and the cry, "Great danger, a gun, scatter for your lives," at once caused them to scatter widely and tower till far beyond range. Many others of his words of command I learned in the course of my long acquaintance, and found that sometimes a very little difference in the sound makes a very great difference in meaning. One day while watching, I saw a crow crossing the Don Valley with something white in his beak. He flew to the mouth of the Rosedale Brook, then took a short flight to the beaver elm. There he dropped the white object, and looking about gave me a chance to recognize my old friend Silverspot. After a minute he picked up the white thing, a shell, and walked over past the spring, and here, among the docks and the skunk cabbages, he unearthed a pile of shells and other white, shiny things. He spread them out in the sun, turned them over, turned them one by one in his beak, dropped them nestled on them as though they were eggs, toyed with them and gloated over them like a miser. This was his hobby, his weakness. He could not have explained why he enjoyed them, any more than a boy can explain why he collects postage stamps, or a girl why she prefers pearls to rubies. But his pleasure in them was very real, and after half an hour he covered them all, including the new one, with earth and leaves, and flew off. I went at once to the spot and examined the hoard. There was about a hatful in all, chiefly white pebbles, calm shells, and some bits of tin. But there was also the handle of a china cup, which must have been the gem of the collection. That was the last time I saw them. Silverspot knew that I had found his treasures, and he removed them at once. Where, I never knew. During the space that I watched him so closely, he had many little adventures and escapes. He was once severely handled by a sparrowhawk, and often he was chased and worried by kingbirds. Not that these did him much harm, but they were such noisy pests that he avoided their company as quickly as possible, just as a grown man avoids a conflict with a noisy and impudent small boy. He had some cruel tricks, too. He had a way of going to the small birds' nests each morning to eat the new-laid eggs, as regularly as a doctor visiting his patients. But we must not judge him for that, as it is just what we ourselves do to the hens in the barnyard. Silverspot was a crow of the world. He was truly a successful crow. He lived in a region that, though full of dangers, abounded with food. In the old, unrepaired nest he raised a brood each year with his wife, whom, by the way, I never could distinguish, and when the crows again gathered together, he was their acknowledged chief.